Mike Pereira, the former head of NFL officials for many a moon, and my compadre of official review from NFL Total Access on NFL Network back in the day. Now,
used to listen
Sports,
to you all the time. Give me a rule change. Give me a rule change.
Hey, look, I talked to you about the tuck rule and how silly it was.
I know.
So I think I'm onto something here with this catch rule, Mike, okay? And I understand it was appropriately applied yesterday. I am not arguing that at all, okay? Why, however, if somebody has possession of the football in their hands and by trying to score, puts the ball in a spot they normally wouldn't while trying to complete the catch, why are we penalizing somebody trying to score? Why can't we make the change that I'm supposing and proposing? Knee down, which Jesse James had in the field of play, ball that's clearly in his hands. By merely reaching across the goal line, we should not penalize a player. Mike Pereira.
Well, let me first go back to the rule so I can put aside all the people on social media that are killing me on social media because I've heard all night long the knee was down, he reached out, he lunged into the end zone.
Yes.
All of that, which are all true statements, right? Mm-hmm. And they all apply to the receiver that's on his feet, so who's not going to the ground. Apply totally. Control, 2 feet, element of time. There is no act that you can perform on the way to the ground when you're going to the ground that can reverse it or make it a catch if, in fact, the ball comes loose when you hit the ground. So they interpreted it right. Okay,
correct.
That is correct.
So I'm saying, why can't we now have the act of trying to score being the rule change that you said there is no act that can negate the ground causing the incompletion?
And I think if you do that, you bring in too much of the element of gray. You know, how much is a real reach? How much is a Des Bryant little reach? I mean, when they brought all these ex-players together, you know, to try to come up with some solution, it was interesting. Chris Carter, a bunch of receivers, they all concluded that the rule was okay the way it was because it was more black and white than gray. But yet, it's a problem. I grant you it's a problem because if you look at a rule and you think that, wait a minute, Jesse James doesn't understand the rule, Mike Tomlin doesn't understand the rule, everybody that's watching is thinking it's a catch, and yet replay reverses an official's decision on the field to incomplete, then it's really, to me, not a good rule. And
right.
You know, somebody said to me earlier today, and I've been popular today for the first time in a while, but somebody said to me today, back when you were on the field in 1996, would this have stayed a touchdown? And the answer is yes. Why? Why? Because there was no replay. The problem to me is replay has gone too far. We've gotten too technical in replay. And you're taking common sense decisions that are made on the field and you're reversing them because the ball momentarily moves. To me, this is a judgment element of the game and doesn't belong in instant replay. And if we would just leave the judgment calls into the hands of the officials, what did they rule on Jesse James? What did they rule?
They ruled it a touchdown.
Because it looked like a touchdown, felt like a touchdown, smelled like a touchdown.
Well, Lions fans who are listening to us right now across the country saying Golden Tate was the same damn thing against the Atlanta Falcons, and then all of a sudden now Riveron buzzes in and says, well, wait a minute, knee was here, ball was here, arm was here, not a touchdown, and that might be eventually over the next 2 weeks the difference between Atlanta going to the playoffs and the Lions being home, in the same way that this may be the difference between Pittsburgh having to go to New England or vice versa for an AFC championship game. So how, because I know you have to put things in words in black and white, what would you say to the competition committee in terms of removing plays like this from replay?
Well, I mean, that's what I would say. Let's get catch, no catch out of replay. What would have happened, you think, if we didn't have replay of the play last night? What do you think would have happened? Nothing. There would have been no touchdown. Jim Nance, Tony Romo, they all thought it was a touchdown. When I saw it the first time, I thought it was a touchdown.
So
only when we slowed it down, yes, technically, it's by the technical application of the rule, it's an incomplete pass. And I was texting back and forth with Joe Buck last night. You know, we had I don't know if you saw the butt cheek play.
Yes, indeed, in Carolina.
And 1 cheek equals 2 feet, you know. You don't need the whole pressed ham to get that inbounds to have it be a catch. 1 cheek is good enough. we're becoming too technical in this game and making it hard to watch through replay. 4 stops in the last quarter and a half last night in the Raiders-Cowboy game. I'm thinking that we are. I think Joe brings a good point, but I don't know how you actually change the rule to say, on your way to the ground, if you perform a football move on the way to the ground, then that immediately makes it
But he's clearly reaching for the goal line. He's
no
clearly
question.
trying
But
to
he could
score.
be reaching.
If that, Mike Pereira, if that is the way you put it in a rule book to say this is the difference between a catch in between the ones and the catch that's going from the one into the end zone, if that is the way that you could change it, because it does look like a catch. Now, you're just saying just take catch, not a catch, out of the replay basket, which is another fix on this front, too.
Yeah.
Now,
the other thing, too, is that everybody points out, which I understand. They say if a runner reaches out and breaks the plane, it's a touchdown immediately.
Correct.
But they
this
have a
guy's
hard time. He's not a runner.
He's not a runner yet because I get it, because he has not completed the process of the catch.
Yeah.
My answer to that is these guys are getting bigger, stronger, faster, more athletic. The process of the catch, certainly in the case of Des Bryant, was truly a 5-yard span. He's that big, that strong, that athletic to be able to catch, switch hands, and put it, trying to get it to the goal line. He should not be penalized for that, and we need to change the rule book based on how much bigger, stronger, faster. We changed the rule book because we can't have the goalpost at the front of the end zone anymore. I mean, because times change. Athletes change. Athleticism is getting more and more prevalent in this league by guys at positions you wouldn't think could make a play like Jesse James did yesterday.
But I think when you already have brought ex-players in and you've already examined it from the top to the bottom and they could come up with nothing, I don't think you're going to get the change. I bring this up, George Young, who I just loved George Young when he was the head of football operations. And I wrote about this. When he was there in 1999, when we brought instant replay back, he didn't want it. He didn't want it, period. He believed in the purity of the game. And he had a little manila folder, right, that he kept his notes in because he was the head of football operations. And normally when you think of a manila folder, you write on the tab, you write instant replay. He wrote in big letters on the front of the file, "The monster grows." and he's right. And it's hard to back things out, but the game's getting hard to watch when it gets so technical.
Mike,
like
I was there at that first owners meeting of the NFL Network's existence down in Florida at the Breakers at 2004, where it was voted to be permanent or not. And I do remember Mike Brown of the Bengals voted no, and Al Davis abstained because that's what he always did.
Sure.
And everybody else said, look, if Joe or Jane Sixpack is sitting at home with that newfangled television they're putting on the wall and can see it, we should use it too. And one last thing before I take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the other rule I want to have changed that ended Sunday Night Football and Gene Sterator's new magical paper card method of deciding first downs.
Yes.
When I said to you about the tuck rule, we got to get it out, and you were defending the tuck rule, you did say to me that the tuck rule took more of the gray area out of it, and changing it would put more gray back in, which is the same.
You have too good of a memory.
You just said to me.
Do you remember
about the catch
everything
rule.
Everybody says? You just have too good of a memory, you know.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. But stick around right there, okay? We're going to come back, and then we're going to take a break. We'll come back and talk about the Sunday Night Football.
You got it.
Mike Pereira. And also your phone calls. If you're on hold, stay on hold. Latavius Murray, Aaron Donald, Steve Mariucci, also on this busy Monday show. Indochino.com. There's something you're going to need to check out, Mike Pereira. Certainly with you sitting there in your stylish zip-up leather jacket. I mean, you got it working here today. Yeah, with the shoes. You always are looking your best. You know it's important to look your best. Look at you, man. Indochino is an easy, great way to get a suit made to your exact measurements at a great price. You go to Indochino.com. You visit a showroom as well. You could shop online again at Indochino.com. Choose from hundreds of top-quality fabrics, customize whether you want a lapel, jacket lining, monogram, or more. Just put in your customizations, submit your measurements, place your order, and wait for it to arrive in just a few weeks. Any premium Indochino suit can be gotten right now for just $3.59 at Indochino.com, but you have to put my promo code Eisen at checkout. That's 50% off the regular price for a made-to-measure premium suit, plus shipping's free. Indochino.com, promo code Eisen for any premium suit for just $359 with free shipping. Back with Mike Pereira in a moment. Mike Pereira, Fox Rules analyst, back here for another segment on the show. Okay, let's get to the other windmill I'm tilting at. I hate this rule that you fumble the ball through the end zone and the defense is the one that benefits. Right. When you are a player like Derek Carr, game is on the line, country is watching, ball out there. Had he fumbled it directly to his right, he'd have gotten the ball back. Had his opponent, as one of his teammates recovered it, he would have gotten the ball back. Had one of the defenders knocked the ball out of bounds, he'd have gotten the ball back. It just rolled out of his hand, rolls out of bounds. He doesn't get the ball back. Why is the rule written the way it is, Mike Pereira?
I think it's a difference to me. You know, if you fumble the ball forward and out of bounds in the field of play, it's different than putting a loose ball into the end zone. I do think that's different, and consistency-wise, anytime you put the ball into the end zone, it's either going to be a recovery by the defense or a touchback, but you put it in. But yet, I agree it's probably too punitive. And Kenny Fiore, this is a name nobody knows, but Kenny Fiore's worked at the league office for 100 years. And every competition committee meeting since 2000, he comes up and says, this rule is a bad rule.
Ken Fiore's a genius.
And he wants to change it. I think it's difficult because, as I said, I think it's different when you fumble the ball forward into the end zone.
Why?
But I think that,
why is it different?
Well, because you put a loose ball into your opponent's end zone as opposed to out of bounds. But I think I'd be willing to listen to a change. But I think since it's more crucial when you put the ball into your opponent's end zone, I think you have to come up with something different than just giving the ball back to the player at the fumble spot.
What, 10-yard penalty? 5-yard
penalty? Well, maybe somebody talks about a reverse touchback. Put it at the 20. I don't know. But then I think you get the kind of gimmicky doing that. But look.
But losing possession entirely. I mean, to me that's crazy talk. That's crazy. I guess I understand that that is hallowed ground, an end zone. So it's different between goal lines. Okay, so I get that. But for just the fact that game over or possession over, that's nuts, man.
Yeah.
So reverse touchback to me is way too punitive.
Yeah, somebody suggested that this morning that I heard, and they're not going to go with something like that. You can't have a
5-yard penalty or 10-yard.
You can't put a penalty on a fumble. It's not an intentional fumble. It's one of those that gets a lot of discussion, but I think, again, hallowed ground like you talk about, I know that we're all, of course, I said you wouldn't get the Tuck rule changed. But
you did tell me that, and guess what happened?
And I just don't think, really, because of the difference of putting a loose ball into your opponent's end zone as opposed to just out of bounds in the field of play, I just don't think you're going to make any progress there.
Mike Pereira here on the Rich Eisen Show. There is nothing in the rule book saying that you may use office supplies determining a first down when the chains are on the field,
right.
Correct? There is nothing.
There is nothing.
So why did he pull out a piece of paper?
It's an old trick. I've done it.
You have?
Oh, yeah. I did it back when I was a referee in my college days. I've done it when you couldn't really tell when it looked so close. You take a card out and you slip it right down the front of that rod there, and if you touch the ball when you slip it down there at all, then that means you have reached the first down. I think it's interesting that Sterator, in his pool report afterwards, said that he was just validating what he already decided, because he said that he had already decided it was a first down. So then it becomes the Sterator entertainment show. He wants more FaceTime, by doing this. And he certainly got the conversation going on. But, it's old school. I mean, I might have done it too. He used everybody has a card. He folded it over because that's the card that you use to track timeouts and the penalties that you call. So you fold it over instead of having one bigger sheet.
But he didn't use fold first. He went opposite.
Yeah, I know. And if somebody said, what would you have used? I said, I'd probably use my ARP card is what I would have to use if I was still on the field. But.
So, what is the rule, though? I mean, if the ball is touching...
If the ball at all touches that front rod there, then it's a first down.
Okay.
And we all know, by the way, inexact science. I mean, if you go back to how the ball was first spotted on that sequence, it is an eyeball. It is an eyeball coming from the down judge who goes to the sideline and goes, okay, put it here. So then, when it becomes then it's an exact science. But that's part of the beauty of the game.
I know.
I like that.
So in the 2.5 minutes I have left with you, we've kind of come full circle where you think that replay's gone too far and it needs to be curtailed back. So I'd imagine you don't think we should be using lasers or chips in footballs to try and measure and things like that.
No, I mean, already we've taken the game off the field. We took the game out of the officials' hands and we moved it to the replay booth. Now we've moved it to New York, and New York often doesn't make the best decision. The more technology, you're never going to make it perfect. And people say we need to put a chip in the ball so we can see if it's a touchdown. Well, then you need to put a chip in the guy's knee and the shin and everything, because how are you going to tell when the knee is down? So, we have to understand that no player plays the game perfectly. I have yet, and I used to scour games when I was in New York running the program, I've yet to see a perfectly officiated game, replay or not. I mean, it's just this drive for perfection isn't going to happen no matter what we try to do. And I personally like the human part of the game. I like the game focused more on the players and the coaches. And the more technology you bring in, the more the focus goes on officiating, which keeps me employed.
Nice.
But I think it maybe makes the game a little harder to watch.
Well, and then who would be getting all the Tito's that you get? And with the last minute and a half to go. You're on the competition committee. I walk in with the Eisen rule of that the goal line, if you do have two hands on the ball and you already have a knee down or 2 feet down in play, you should not lose a touchdown by the ground causing an incomplete pass because you've reached across. How does that go in that room, do you think?
I think that the room looks at you and says, Rich, I like the way you're thinking, and there are a couple plays that are obvious, but there are far more plays that are not obvious. And we're worried about getting to the gray area, even though Mike Pereira once told you that the tuck rule would never be overturned because it would put in too much gray area.
And I said, and the gray area goes out is what I said. So I've got 15 seconds left. What about changing that rule with fumble through the end zone?
Not going to happen.
All right, Mike Pereira. Love you coming on, man. Thanks for coming in person.
Great being here.
Appreciate
Look forward to it.
I know
again.
you're a busy man, just like Al Riveron, no doubt, is today. Latavius Murray, Aaron Donald, the phone lines are lit. Hour number 2 and 3 beckon for all of us here on a busy Monday on The Rich Eisen Show.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.